Hi guys, yeah, I'm just at Scampton and I bumped into the lovely Christina. Christina's a really, really good campaigner, bit of a knowledgeable person, lives in the Lincolnshire area, and I've known Christina for a little while. So I'm going to introduce you to her, let her introduce herself and tell you about herself. She's going to tell you a little bit, which actually I find it's quite fascinating about Lincoln actually itself, because Lincoln has got a huge history. And I think you've got, Christine was telling me about, you've got York. There was York built there in the Roman times, and they was built there so they could keep their eye on the Scottish coming down to England and so forth. I put Christina on because I'm fascinated by the history, and this is such a historic site with the Dam Busters and so on, and the Red Arrows, and it's a historic site, heritage centre. But Christine, I'm going to have a little chat with you. This is something a little bit different, guys. We're at Scampton, and we're just doing a little bit of filming. Well, if you look in the picture, I'm just going to zoom in a minute. If you look behind Christine, you might make out, just in the distance there, let me just come to one side, you might make out Lincoln Cathedral in the right distance. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit more, see if I can get Lincoln Cathedral in. There's got Lincoln Cathedral there in the distance, guys. Can you see that in the distance? That's got huge. You've got the castle, it's got the Magna Carta in. Let me come back down and zoom back out. Let's bring Christine back in. Right, Christine, thank you for doing this with me.
No problem.
Right, so now you know all about the history. Brayford Wharf itself, let me try and get you centralised, that's it, that's better. Right, so, let me just straighten that, that's better. Right, so, you're saying about the history of Lincoln itself. It was an old Roman, was it a Roman fort?
This Lincoln is connected to Boston, obviously, and it's connected by the Witham, and the Witham goes all the way up to Lincoln Cathedral, and this is where how the Romans sort of decided that they would make camp in. It would be a very sort of a great site for military and civil sort of development. What happened is that originally this was the Roman castle, and the Brayford Port was what was used, and the Brayford Port actually splits into three directions, which allowed it to be accessible to the rest of the country. So it was basically an inland port, and people don't realise it. It was also, it was called Lindum Colonia at the time of the Romans.
I've heard of the Lindum thing, because that's linked to Lincolnshire,
Lindum,
isn't it?
There's various, there's actually a building company called Lindum Construction that lives in there. And people that know about it, obviously, you see these Italian words all over Lincoln, because...
and they're famous for their regiment as well, the Yellow Bellies as well, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that was a later development that came sort of later on. But where we are now is indeed where the Romans would have been marching, because this is part of the Ermine Road system, yeah? So we also have the Fossway, or the Fosdyke, which goes off from the internal port. Now, why Scampton is so important is for many reasons. And obviously, because it's situated on a geographical ridge that actually gives people a better sight of the whole of the region.
Yeah.
So it's not coincidence that RAF Scampton came into use, because this has been a military site for a long time.
Wow.
And what you must understand is that this is part of the passion that I'm here, because my uncle was actually stationed here as a warrant officer, and was involved in the Dam Busters situation. And I think that as for many people in this country, isn't just about the war. It's about what actually the World War meant, and what protection of our country meant to most of the men and the women that fought for us and still continue to fight, even those that aren't actually in uniform. I think that's a really important thing. There are lots of people out there that have voices and are feeling very upset about things, but for me, and as it is for everyone, why are we doing this in a site where basically my knowledge, as having worked for the local authority, is very clearly about it's about a fraudulent situation. This isn't about asylum seekers. this is about where their money's going and who's having the contracts, in the same way that they did with COVID and the PPE. We will find out shortly that we're in a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got people like President Putin telling you you're in big trouble, and I'm telling you this because this has happened in the past in Russia.
Yeah.
They had the same troubles that we're now experiencing, and so it's like he's saying to us, we've been there, this is what we've had to do to retain our borders and protect people that actually lived alongside us. Yeah, I suppose it's a bit, for me, it's a bit like, and I don't want to get into that whole political thing, but what I do know is that Scampton and my family heritage is embedded in this.
Yeah.
And not just me, every soldier that has worked himself through Scampton and the history that goes with it. Lincoln has been traditionally a place where there's always been some conspiracies going off, and that still continues to occur, because as you know, if you allow secrecy and money to fuel, it will be like a boil and it'll eventually bust, and this is probably what's going to happen here.
Nice way of putting it, Christina, but when they talk about refugees, asylum seekers, this is going to be predominantly a detention centre for illegal immigrants.
Absolutely.
Not asylum seekers. There is a lot of people keep turning around and saying about asylum seekers and refugees. No one has an actual issue with genuine asylum seekers, genuine refugees being processed through the system and everything else. These are coming over our borders by sea.
Yes.
And then that's another political thing, when we used to be able to police our borders and our seas.
But what the government are doing through their tactics is creating government instruments, the instruments being protocols, being paperwork, slowing everything up, making it longer, so everything drags on and on and on. One minute you think that there's a situation that's going to be dealt with and be funded, and the next thing we've got another situation that's arised somewhere else. But this, for me, will be for our country a very, very sad moment if Debbie Barnes, who is the CEO, and Martin Hill, who's the chief executive, who I can absolutely specify how corrupt they are, and will be the first people to leave Lincolnshire. They're not here. They've never been here.
No.
Where is Carl McCartney, that every time I go on Facebook shows up and tells me how wonderful he is? After, of course, he was done for expenses fraud and was not able to apply for his seat at the last election.
And Martin Hill's got a terrible record. His record is quite atrocious.
Martin Hill has been a chief executive and has made his nest over a long period with the help of his kindly press officer that he has a very nice relationship with, shall we say. And that is an absolute brilliant way to keep the press I've contacted the press about situations and they dare not speak because Martin Hill et al. Will follow them down the road. But my biggest concern is, again, the fact that why would you sell your own county if you are actually a resident and historically involved with this city? Because the people in government are not people that actually have a long heritage here.
Wow, you said that so brilliantly. I love the bit about Lincoln being an actual inland port. I never knew that. I know about Brayford Wharf, I know about the canal system, but I didn't know with the link to the Witham and so on and so forth. Very, very interesting knowledge, that.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm trying to use the same thing that Mr. Putin used when he used the whole business about giving people the history and tried to explain why he did what he did. And it's whether you agree or don't agree, history can be interpreted in lots of ways. But one thing is that the people of Lincolnshire know that this is not going to be a good thing for the county.
Yeah.
So what is Carl McCartney doing about it? What is Debbie Barnes, who employs her husband below her and doesn't declare it on freedom of information? And then what is everybody else doing about it in county
But it's the same with
offices?
politicians and councillors all over this country.
Absolutely.
They're adversely corrupt. and in it for themselves.
Yeah.
You know, how deep are their pockets? I mean, at the end of the day, they don't care about this site. All they're worried is about themselves.
I would urge everyone to have a look on Freedom of Information in regard to any dealings with Lincolnshire County Council. I mean, when I took the when I took them fraud and discrimination in regard to what was happening with kids in care, I realised that the reason that they brought in a new chief executive under the name of Keith Island was as a cover. He soon left with £300,000 payoff after 6 months of having been in post, which surprisingly Debbie Barnes took over after she'd managed to, let's say, disguise what had happened in my scenario, where I was making very, very, very concerning disclosures about child protection issues and data selling to independents.
Well. Yeah. Christina, thank you very much for that. I have to wind it up because we've got some other stuff to do. I'm just going to get a shot of the camp and we'll do something in the week, and we're going to do some more and a follow-up with Christina's story. So thank you very much for that. So guys, you can see there we are. There's RAF Scampton. Just going to get a shot of Scampton in the picture there. And as you can see, Christine speaking of very, very good knowledge of the area, what it's about, its history and everything else. Absolutely brilliant knowledge that. I loved it. Loved listening to her. I loved about, I know about Brayford Wharf, but I never actually knew it was an inland port. So here we are, guys. Here's the front gates at Scampton. Security there looking at us as they normally do. The flag's out here, and then here's the camp. There's the old army tent that's come down from Strady, and here's all the guys here, and quite a few people here still. You've got some Guardians and a few people come here to show their support. Quite a few people here, and then there's the lookout tower there with Guy Gibson looking over the skies there. Let me just zoom in on Guy Gibson, who's just looking out there. Look at Guy there. He's zoomed out and looked out. I built a tower so you can go up in it and have a look. So we'll do some more in a bit, guys. Thank you for watching. Like and share, guys. Christine was very informative there. I really enjoyed that. Christina, sorry.